executive mansion at the time that we were discussing, trying to persuade them to see the need not to increase the price of rice, because the poor people will suffer immensely. They will be deprived of their staple food. I remember vividly when the late Honorable Frank Talbot, look at me, when we made introduction and other people introduced me, when Bacchus Matthews introduced me, he said, oh, this is Jesus Alieu Swaray. Then he turned around and looked at it and said, look at this insignificant gigafly. This is the statement he made. But notwithstanding,
my question.
Yes. We were close to some of these people. We tried to advise so that we can handle the situation with care.
Okay.
But whether they listened or not, the result can tell whether they listen or not.
All right. You are Vai by tribe, but you are Muslim, right?
I'm Mende.
Mende.
Yes.
Do they sometimes take you to be Mandingo just by the name Swaray or so?
Well, you see,
Or because your size or your...
Swaray, I need to tell you, you see...
I just asked, do sometimes they miss...
Okay, all right, I will answer your
yes or no.
There are people in this town who believe that when you dress like a Muslim, then you are Madigo.
Yeah.
Or you are Fula. I remember on Mecklin Street, at the time of the war, somebody saw me dressed in my Muslim attire. Then he said, you Madingo boy, come here. I didn't pay attention.
Okay, now going back to the war 1990, because I'm coming to the place where you visited the MPFL base. The early part of the war, especially 1990, there became a time that especially NPFL forces, they were not friends, allegedly not friends with the Mandingos, because they felt that just like the Mandingos being that the constituted authority, they were on the side of the government, which was at that time President Samuel Kanyando. So people who were of the Mandingo or looking like Mandingo or Muslim, because once you're Muslim, they almost consider you just like Mandingo. That's the problem for asking. Now, for someone who looked that way, and knowing very well, like you were running from Prince Johnson, that you will find, I'm trying to see how you could find, in coming back to the question of, from my colleagues too, how you could find yourself in the rebel line, quote then alleged rebel line, feeling safe to stay there for two months, will all be, if you are not something like have open opportunity of alliance, to be close, to even be near the base, to the base, where either the people there got guns, and to be near the hierarchy. Because I want you to explain, you said you were there when Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf visited the base, talking up to the hierarchy. And like you saw her in her uniform, so I want for you to explain how, with your size, your look, your religion, during that heat of the time in July to before September, because though that September, that is public knowledge. So how could you be there, if there were now alliance or so? I'm trying to...
Okay, all right, thank you, Commissioner. As I said earlier, firstly, self-preservation is the first law of nature. At the time when the MPFL started killing the Muslims, and I told you that IMPFL had already come on this side, and IMPFL was a splinter group of the MPFL. So at that time, anybody who was a Muslim, you will know in fact which way you will dress if you are among the people. And my going to Greater Liberia was not a voluntary thing. I told you, I used to live in Congo town, somewhere around the
72nd
SKD Boulevard.
Yeah.
You see, so when this war, when Prince Johnson had taken over this area, and the scenario that we saw, we all felt that here was not a very good area.
Okay, so when you were on the rebel line, how you were dressing? You were dressing like what? A soldier?
I was dressed like any ordinary
rebel?
person.
Oh.
I was dressed like any ordinary person.
What,
and also,
what were you wearing? Like any ordinary person?
And any ordinary dress that wouldn't depict like a Muslim. I dressed like any ordinary person.
Okay, so you had on sneakers with jeans and t-shirt, or you had on shirt and short trousers, or you had pajama, what?
Well, I just had ordinary clothes on. My trousers, and then whatever. I remember I had on slippers.
Okay, like you said, self-preservation carry many people to the places just to survive and stuff. I will take note of that. Now, you said you saw Miss Alieu in soldier uniform. Could you describe the color and what it was? Because they got different kind of soldier uniform. So what color was it?
Well, it was a military outfit, and you know what a military outfit looks like.
No, they got different type, khaki, green.
Well, it was the same green like what Mr. Chancellor were wearing. It's like when they visited the area, they were parading the streets at time. You know, the bright lady, and somebody told me, "Oh, that Ellen there." You see?
You had not seen her before?
Well, Ellen, I have seen Ellen before.
But she looked different.
I have seen Ellen before. But I did not expect her to be there. But somebody who saw her first called my attention. He said, "Look, that's Ellen there." So that's how I got to know that she was there.
She had on cap too, shades?
Yeah, cap.
Did she have a gun or pistol?
No, I didn't see gun with her, but she was in the outfit.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mrs. Swaray,
Yes,
thank you very much for coming to share your experience with us today. I would actually like to ask you 3 questions. And there are a lot of rumors concerning what actually happened in April 6, what caused April 6 war. Some information that we've been receiving is that the Honorable, at the time, the Limo J leader, Roosevelt Johnson, killed an individual. And in the Council of State commitment to restore justice, they decided to go and arrest him. But today you said that the Ulimo J plan to flush out NPFL and Ulimo K. I just want some clarity as to what actually caused the April 6 war, who initiated it.
Well, okay, Commissioner, thank you. I remember during the time we went to either Accra or Akosombo, the deliberations that took place there, because we went there several times, we could not get a conclusive result. And each time we came back, war ensued. Each time we came back, war ensued. So I remember at one of the meetings, we tried to analyze the situation that we're all engrossed in. And I could see that the 2 groups that were mainly targeted by the rest of the other groups where MPFL and the Ulimo, the Alhaji Kruma, was heading. So I even did my study to see what the situation looked like. And I advised Alhaji Kruma in writing. I analyzed the whole thing and I put the groups into blocks and the reasons why they have regrouped themselves into such blocks. The rest of the groups went on one side with a view to flush out the MPFL as well as the Ulimo that Alhaji was heading. And in the process, when we came back, my analysis I gave to Alhaji, really, it was like a prophecy. And when we got here, it did not take long. The April 6th war started very suddenly in the day, on Saturday. I remember I was at my house. One of my sisters had just arrived from America and she came to meet me. In the process, while we're talking, then this war started. I told you earlier that I remained at my house for 3 days before I could leave from there. And while I was there, rockets were falling on my house, but I could look through the window. And what I saw was that I was saying ECOMOG. They brought in the MOA. And the other groups were loaded in the MOA. They will come and bombard the position of MPFL and Ulimo that Alhaji was heading. They will bombard them and the people will retreat. The fighters will retreat. As they retreat, they will tell the fighters to get down from the MOA and take position with their guns. This is what maybe God wanted me to see before I could leave the area. So, whatever may have been the reason for this war, as I told you, they saw the two groups as the most potent groups, and that being that they all were vying for power, it was the desire of the other groups, with the assistance of some ECOMOG forces, whether it was officially approved for them to help or it was done behind closed doors, this I don't know. But I saw it vividly, that they assisted them. And I also saw that the ECOMOG group from Guinea also assisted to some extent, even to the point where I was at the barrack now. I saw their MOA also came and broke portion of the barrack fence. So mainly the Nigeria group of ECOMOG and the Ghana group, because there were actually three main groups that really mattered: Ghana, Guinea, and Nigeria. So I saw that Ghana and Nigeria were involved in assisting the other groups. So maybe this may have been the reason why the Guinea group also was trying to assist the other group. But all in all, I saw that the war carried nobody anywhere. The April 6th war did not achieve its objectives. So if that answers your question, I'd like to pause.
Well, I actually wanted to know the cause of April 6th war, because there are a lot of versions concerning what really happened. Now, but you talk about a group on the other side of Ulimo J. Could you kindly name them? Because you said other people regroup, okay, and then they intended to flush NPFL and Ulimo K.
Okay.
So what's the name of the group?
Okay, let me attempt to name some of the groups if I can remember. One of the group was the Lofa Defense Force. Ulimo J was one of the groups. LPC, the Liberia Peace Council, was one of the groups. There was also a group that they call CRC IMPFL by Thomas Woweyu and the late Samuel Doki. That was also another group. The rest of the other groups all were in one block. They all ganged against the MPFL and Ulimo headed by Alhaji Kroma. They wanted to flush them out so they can form the government. This was the objective.
At that time, you were the director of cabinet. Am I correct?
Yes, I was director of cabinet, but during wartime, nobody knows who is who.
So as director of cabinet, are you aware or did you hear true information that Roosevelt Johnson at the time actually killed someone?
If Roosevelt Johnson killed someone?
In Monrovia?
Well, not to my knowledge.
So because the April 6th war was actually not the cause that Roosevelt Johnson violated the system or the justice system, so they wanted to instill justice. That's what's in the cause of April 6th.
Well, not to my knowledge.
Now you said you were in PAL, you served as propaganda officer. And then in Ulimo, the combined Ulimo, you became the political advisor. You never pick up arm one day. You only gave them genuine advice that led to what we have today. At the same time, you said that you are one person that believed that you should not die under the table, but rather be on the battlefront. Could you explain that?
Yes, I was just giving you a figurative speech. I'm not somebody who is easily scared. I don't get scared easily. I fear nothing except to do wrong. And my conscience is clear. So therefore, I did not see any reason, because I made that statement because other people were telling me that we should leave the country. I said, no, this is my country. Why should I leave? Because of whatever. If I will die, if it is my time to die, let me die. If it is not my time, the Almighty God that my soul is in his hand will protect me. And I explained to you here on several occasions how he protected me. So that is what I mean. I'm not easily scared.
In former President Talbot's government, you served as opposition. When Talbot was overthrown by Samuel Doe, you joined the government. And then later on, you served the interim government. The constitution was suspended after Doe took over. If you were asked today, in terms of government and human rights, to compare the two regimes you work in, comparing to the Talbot government, what was the similarity? What was the difference?
Well, as you know, a military government, obviously run by a military junta, is a government that usually exercises governance through decrees. And the military have their own way of dispensation. They have their way of doing things. I'm not a military man. And as a civilian, I was able to play my role as opposition during the administration of late President Talbot. My participation as an opposition in the PAL or PPP was intended to cause the government to perform better, because it is the role of opposition to point out the shortfalls of the government. And that is a role that the PPP and PAL played during the administration of President Talbot. And I remember vividly when the other people were arrested, the security forces went wild all over in Liberia looking for Jesus Alieu Swaray. It was on the radio every day that anybody who saw Jesus Alieu Swaray just cut off his head and bring it to the government, they will give you 10,000 United States dollars. So, considering such a situation very dangerous for my life, I had no choice but to go into political underground. I was there until the coup took place. When the coup took place, that was the only way I could even return to Monrovia. If that coup had not taken place, maybe if they had seen me, they would have killed me. And I wouldn't have returned here. Who knows? So, I'm not saying that I approve the coup. No, it's not what I'm saying. But who was I? If a group came and they did what they did, and they said that I was free once more to move around, and they decided to appoint me, I wouldn't turn it down. I will accept it in order that they don't get vexed with me.
The question is not actually whether you accept the position or not.
The question is, how do I compare the two, right?
Yeah, we're talking about in terms of human rights.
Well, in terms of human rights, I don't believe that considering...
and the opposition, did they survive during that time? The other opposition, did they survive? Opposition parties.
Did they survive during which time?
Military time.
Well, as I told you from the beginning, the moment the military took over, they suspended all political activities. So, how could political work go on?
Thank you very much.
A military junta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Swaray.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness. As a Muslim who knows the values of the Holy Quran and who have seen you taking oath on the Holy Quran, I will not ask you questions on matters relating to what you heard, but I will ask you on issues that your statement showed to us you have certain knowledge. If you read your paper that you presented, the last paragraph on page 3 tends to suggest that you people were not satisfied with the price of the rice to be $30. And therefore, when I say you, I mean the organization, communicated with the Ministry of Justice asking for permission to have a political parade to demonstrate your objection. And that while waiting for this permit, the membership of your group continue to converge at your headquarters. My question is, where was this headquartered?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Our headquarters used to be right between Gale Street and Randolph Street. There's a little house there that belonged to Mr. Frank Wallow. That was the house that we're using as our office.
You said when your membership were converging to that her office, government sent police to attack your people, shot and kill and wounded some of the people. Now I'm quoting you in order for you to explain that portion to me. This violent provocation by the government on its people resulted in vandalism, looting, and destruction of properties as underscored a reprisal from the people. How do you understand this?
Well, Commissioner, thank you. What I was saying is that why the membership of the organization was converging at the office. And I told you that at that place, a record crowd of about 10,000 persons converged down there. You could stand there and see people all around the public works area, all around there, all on Randall Street. It was a large crowd. And for the government to see such a crowd and still disregard and gave order to armed police to attack such crowd, I would say in reality it was the government that caused for the people to even go wild on the streets, and even other people who were not even part of the organization now joined the group on the streets, and they just went out there. There was no control, and they just did what they did. So I would want the government to take that blame.
Yeah, my reason of asking you is that if your members were attacked by police, and that show in the first place that the police were within the proximity of your head office, and if there was any reaction from your membership, they could have concentrated on the police. But your presentation did not show that. They were shot, killed, and wounded. And in order to revenge, they forgot about those who attacked them. They forgot about government offices. They went into homes of business people, individuals, according to your language, vandalized, looted, and destroyed properties. Don't you think that that statement by you tends to suggest that the violence on that April 14 was not a one-way traffic? One was committed by the government and the other was committed by the PP group or the PIPE group?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I wouldn't share that view. I told you that as the membership was converging at the office and such a huge crowd, firstly, the government that was responsible for the governance of people in the country should have known better not to provoke such a crowd to disperse, and in fact in such an angry manner. When you shoot and kill armless people and you wound people and they go wild out there, the possibility is that there are even other people who were not part of the organization, but they also took advantage of that situation and just went out there and did whatever they did. So we cannot take the blame. In the first place, if I was in control of government, if I were the one in the decision making at that time, What's so much? How about one other time I remember I would just call, there was the time that I think it was the CIO, it was a labor union, and they were demonstrating, parading for some increment. And they marched. At that time, it was President Tubman that was in the chair. And when he heard that the labor union was coming and they were demonstrating, what was the first thing he did? He told the people to tell the Coca-Cola factory to bring more soft drinks. He said, people are coming. They're coming under the sun. You see? And they brought, so when the people arrived, when the demonstrators arrived, so President Tubman came out. He said, well, gentlemen, okay, I hear what you say, but you know you have been under the sun. So, firstly, cool down your thirst. So they divided the soft drinks among the people. And the people drank the soft drink and cooled their thirst. Then he told them, he said, okay, gentlemen, I hear what you say. In due course, I will reply you. I will pursue what you are asking for, and you will get it. That made the whole thing to cool down. And people went back. Nothing happened. They were not provoked.
Yeah.
Politics is the art of the mind.
Yeah.
In the mind of the wise.
But what I'm saying, agreeing with what you have said, in fact, the answer you have given tends to contradict some of the claims that you made against the Tory party. If Tubman can politically solve problems of that nature without violence, then that government should be praised, right?
Well, not in all instances. It depends on the situation.
I mean, in that instance, it should be praised.
That particular instant, yes, I praise him for that.
What I'm trying to say is because you are not a small man in power as well as in PPP. And the purpose of the TRC is to get the correct happenings and record it. You and myself may not be alive to give the kind of paraphrasing that you are doing. You, the first PPP member who has appeared before the TRC to say, look, we wanted to present peacefully our document, our protest to government by parading the streets of Monrovia. And as patriotic and law-abiding citizens, we have educated our people to approach the situation peacefully. And they are being conscientized. They are aware that these governments are troublemakers, government officials, or government securities, and so forth. You heard when Dr. Fambulai said here, they went to you people to say, don't go on the road, don't parade. If you parade, suppose they shoot at you, what will you do? You heard him here yesterday. You heard Jerry Oscar Queer say, our was peaceful, and we're just converging to that place. You, the first, who are now saying to us, no, what really happened when we were shot at, when some of us were killed, when we went out, vandalized, looted, and destroyed properties. You, the first, who are saying, and I'm asking you, it's because what is in your, what you put in writing is what I'm questioning you on. Do you really understand what you said there?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Let me come in. Firstly, I'd like to correct you here. You see, when we said that the provocation on peaceful, armless people by armed police who shot and killed, they were the ones who actually caused the people to go out. They provoked them to go out. We are not giving instruction to go out. We were waiting to receive the permit from the Ministry of Justice. While we were waiting, this provocation went on by the police, by the government police, through the government order. Commissioner, in all sense, who do you blame that caused for people to go out in such huge crowd as they converged? Then you provoke such a group to go out. And as I told you, it was our intention, in fact, if they had given us permit to guide the demonstration to make sure that it be peaceful, because our intention was peaceful parade. But they never gave us the chance, and they provoked the people. They made everything to go out of hand. And even other people who were not even part of the organization, who were out there for their own ulterior motive, they all joined the group. And they did whatever they did.
Yeah.
Commissioner, we all...
this is what you are saying.
We all good sense. How can we take that blame?
No, this is what you are saying now. And this is why you were asked by Moja whether you have weighed the pros and cons of the undertaking that you have planned at the time. But what you say here in the document, you did not say people who were on the streets. You say your membership were provoked by government. And you know, I know, it is a Mandan parable that if a person offended you, and instead of attacking that person, you left that person, you jump on his shadow, how they will look at you to be?
Well, Commissioner, let me just give this hypothetical question to you. If, as we all sit here in this gathering, and you see armed police enter here and begin to shoot at the crowd, will you sit there? Will you try to be controlling your people here? Or will you try to also escape for your own safety?
Anyone who gets...
People easily left.
Anybody who gets respect for his or her life will escape for safety, but will not escape to do destruction.
Okay, so in the process, the group was huge. It was a huge group.
Okay.
10,000 persons.
Thank you.
Provoked to go out there.
Thank you.
And as they were running for whatever, either for their safety, other people who may have not even been part of the organization, for their own ulterior motives, also took advantage of the situation.
Yes.
So indeed,
those are the
organization should not be blamed. And let me also come in. Moja, as an organization, as a sister organization, they were there doing what they were doing. And we were here doing what we were doing.
Thank you.
They had no control over us. They were also politicians.
Thank you.
And they had a reason why some of them, in fact, felt that, well, some of us were reckless.
Thank you. On the same page, for the last paragraph of that statement, of your statement, you say, after the formation of the party, those partisans that were business-minded approached the party to write to the government and apply for permits so they can import rice to be sold for $11 per 100 pounds. In order to reduce the financial hardship on the poor civil servants whose salaries were below $50. Is that what you said? Is that your statement?
Yes.
Do you recall at certain time when the PRC took over and there was scarcity of rice? PPP leadership was asked to import rice for $15. Do you remember that?
It's not to my knowledge.
It's not to your knowledge?
No.
Okay. You also said in your paper on page 5, the first paragraph, that President William R. Tarbell and Daniel Tarbell were major importers of rice in Liberia. As an opposition politician who has made and alarmed, now you find yourself in government, working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where all business entities are registered. Did you people make any effort to find out the names, the locations of these entities that were importing rice to Liberia under the name or incorporatorship of Tarbell, Daniel, and William R. Tarbell? Did you?
Well, let me say this. I did not specifically try to find out who were the importers, but visibly in Monrovia and in those days, it was very glaring. Mr. Daniel Talbot in those days was importer of rice, the cousin of the president. And what I do know is that President Talbot himself was a businessman. And there were even companies were formed in his name called Wilvico. Wilvico meant Wole and Victoria. That was the combination, Wilvico, you see. But to say I specifically went in there to find out who were importers at that time, no, I didn't have time for that.
Were you aware of the role, the power, the scope of LPMC at the time? Or did you make any further investigation? Because that was the only institution that were responsible for importing rice in Liberia and exporting coffee, cocoa, and corn. The sole corporation, even up to now. Were you aware of the existence of LPMC?
Well, I do know.
Liberia's Produce Marketing Corporation.
I do know that LPMC was importing rice and was also exporting coffee, cocoa, and whatever. All Liberian produce. But notwithstanding, as I told you, what we saw vividly, those who were engaged in the rice deal, I told you that Mr. Daniel Talbot was a very big rice dealer in town here. This is no hidden secret. Those who lived in Monrovia in those days know it. And also, late President Talbot, he had very large farms. They were not hidden. There are people in Monrovia up to now, those that live in those days who nearby, they will tell you. Okay. Just open the line, people will tell you.
Thank you. You also said that when you people had the problem with the tribal government, representatives of EULA came from America to come and talk to you people. And they said that government has asked them to negotiate with you. And while this negotiation were going on, police came and attacked you people. And from what you also explained in your general statement, that when Bako Matthew resigned, Fambulai told you was not a member of Moja, but PPP, and therefore you must resign and give space to Moja member. Can we then conclude from these statements that Moja, PPP, EULA were not only three and separate distinct entities, but they have different and separate goals, methodologies, and so forth, that there was no such coordination between and among them?
Well, I would say yes, because within the hierarchy of the Progressive People's Party, those that were in authority, I named them. And Moja was an organization that was also conscientizing the people of Liberia, and we highly respected them. We considered them to be our brothers, and many times some of us will even attend some of their programs, and as such other times also as a way of the solidarity, some of them will attend our programs. But in effect, these were organizations that were distinct and separate from each other. We did not collaborate. We did not take orders from each other. We could consult and share ideas in order to gain experience from each other. But indeed, the destiny of our respective organizations lied in the hands of our respective leadership. As regard Yola, we see them only. In fact, it was just a delegation that we met for the first time here since we started the progressive work.
Thank you.
What their concern was...
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
You also said in your paper on page 5, the last paragraph, that the member of PPP remain in jail until People Redemption Council overthrew the government and took over the ruling. But at the end of the sentence, you say for political settlement. Do you see the April 12 event as a political settlement or a military settlement?
Well, if I did not add or military, but then let me say political military settlement.
All right. Count 6 of your recommendation says, among other things, every state governor, legislature, judicial head, and associate justices should all be elected. If a judicial personnel are elected, and the purpose of election is to make those elected the servants of the people who elected them, how you expect justice, blindfold justice, to be rendered when I know that I can succeed myself through election? How do you expect an independent judiciary as a politician?
Well, okay, thank you, Commissioner. Firstly, I caution people from the beginning that you may see some things in there in my recommendation that it may seem strange because other people have not seen such things before. But as I told you, politics is the art of the mind and the mind of the wise. What we are here for is to make sure that peace prevail in Liberia, that no more should we see the kind of destruction that we saw during the wartime. And therefore, we are charting the course of peace and reconciliation. What I saw in there is that I noticed that most of the fights here is that people are trying to become the president because the president is too power heavy. And it is the president that appoints the Chief Justice. He appoints the associate justices. He appoints the judges and whatnot. He who appoints, of course, the employee should be loyal to the employer. So how, Commissioner, do you see transparent justice if the president has interest in a particular case? So it is in view of this that in fact these are all political positions. And if the Chief Justice is elected, the associate justices are elected, they only owe their loyalty to the state. They will dispense transparent justice. They will make sure, as prescribed by law, that they will interpret the law to the letter. Whoever who knows that you are not supposed to do this and you do it, of course, nobody is above the law. It will be interpreted according to the letter. But if they are appointed by the president and the president has interest in the particular case, as you listened here, I think a few days ago, when Councillor Chair Chipo took the stand and he said people tried to bribe him, especially a judge, and then he tried to apply the law as prescribed, and then he said President Doe easily bypassed and went and freed the man. Why? Because he knows very well he appointed the Chief Justice. So it is in view of this we are saying, Mr. Commissioner and ladies and gentlemen, that it is better that we think things over. We reform the government. If we can't overhaul it, let's reform it. I hope this address your concern.
Are you aware that under the Constitution and law of Liberia, judges of courts of records, including of Supreme Court, are to serve for lifetime except old age, and that they serve during their good behavior, and no president have power to just remove them arbitrarily except by due process. Are you aware of that?
Well, Commissioner, I'm aware of that. But in fact, I have problem with that. If a judge is to serve for such long tenure of office, what check and balance do you guarantee to make sure that this judge will have a second thought not to even do things out of the way? The man knows that he's already in the chair. He is there.
Good behavior.
You see? But who determines the good behavior?
His tenure is based on good behavior.
Who determines the good behavior? Do you know what all happened behind closed doors?
Let me just show you
in chambers?
Let me show you a common example. A magistrate has gone to the legislature now to complain the Chief Justice and to ask for his impeachment. Are you aware of that?
Well, you are giving me the information.
That's the democratic process. And that is done in order to avoid arbitrary dismissal of judges and to avoid misuse of power. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, Commissioner, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But I think if there is a judge that is appointed by the Chief Justice, I think the Chief Justice will see that transparent justice be dispensed. So it is from that background that I make those recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I will ask very pointed questions, and I would be grateful if you could give me pointed responses.
I will try to.
For example, you will try. Okay. Can you give us the date PAL met with the delegation from the USA, ULAA, if you remember?
Yes, I remember. The delegation from the Union of Liberians in America, I think, met with the Progressive People's Party leadership, I think on March the 8th. March 8th, 1980.
The same date of the midnight march?
No. The midnight march was on March the 3rd.
Okay, we need to make some correction. So the midnight march was March 3rd.
Yes.
Can you tell us when the MRM was formed?
Well, to be frank with you, I wouldn't be able to tell you because I was not in Guinea, I was here in Liberia. It was formed in Guinea.
You don't know the year?
I think it was somewhere around 1990, I want to believe.
You mentioned that the late General Thomas Kumpa told you that there was a death warrant for political leaders and all of that. What were the circumstances under which he gave you that information?
Well, firstly, I got the information surprisingly that execution was going on at the barrack. So that prompted me to go there because I wanted to know what was going on. I didn't know. As I told you, I was not a high-profile PRC man. I only served a nominal position at the foreign ministry. So decisions that were made on that level, I was not opportune to have known about it. So in fact, I was on the street when I heard that executions were going on. So I went there at the barrack at the BTC. In fact, when I got there, I met the executions were over. Thomas Kuyongba and the group of army men were now returning back to the brigade. When I walked to him, after I said, General Kuyongba, I heard that execution is going on. He said, yes. He said, we'll finish with it. I said, but who? He said, well, all those who were arrested, the 13 person, he said, we have already executed. Then I asked, I said, but General Kuyongba, I said, why? I was almost in tears. I said, why? Then he said, but do you know that your death warrant was already signed? And it was approved by these people? And that you should have died if they have caught you? He said, so what is good for John is good for Joe. So this was what he told me, and this is what I quoted on the document.
So you went alone to approach the military junta on that issue?
Well, when I had the information...
You went alone?
I was curious. I wanted to know what was happening.
You went alone.
So I easily walked there. I went alone.
Thank you very much.
There were a lot of people there. So just like any ordinary citizen, I walked there and I saw him, and that's how I asked him.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Commissioner.
How close were you to the late Honorable Bacchus Matthews?
Well, Honorable Bacchus Matthews was my colleague, my friend, and my brother.
Did he explain to you how he left for the United States?
Well, Honorable Matthews and I did not chat that particular issue that you are asking for.
So it's no.
No.
Did he explain any relationship between him and the Talbots?
He had never explained any relationship of the kind to me.
When was he appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs, if you remember?
Well, he was appointed immediately after the coup.
Is that the same time you were appointed also?
It was during the time, but not the same time, because I got interned here 3 days later after the coup took place.
But it was the same year?
Yeah, the same year, the same.
And you worked directly with
I worked with him.
Honorable Matthews?
Yes. I was passport director. I was not really directly working in his office, but I was working with the foreign ministry. I was passport director.
So in what year you became assistant minister for administration?
Well, within a relatively, I served the foreign ministry relatively April 1980, 81, I think April 82, I left the foreign ministry. So roughly I can say 2 years.
You left the foreign ministry as assistant minister in April 1982.
Yes, I suppose.
At that time, from what I gathered from other questions asked you, you enrolled at the University of Liberia in 1984.
1982?
No, 84.
84, when I enrolled at the university, I told you earlier, I was already doing
I just wanted you to confirm that you enrolled in 1984 at the university.
Yes, let me say yes, okay. But I gave you an answer that I was already attending school, and then when Samuel Doe gave order to the late Minister of Defense, and then a situation took place there at the university where a lot of things happened.
Is it that true that right after the coup, a lot of people were appointed who were close associates of the ministers and all of that, and in about 2 to 3 years after, the government itself started reviewing its ranks and files, and those who they felt weren't qualified for positions they were holding were dropped?
Well, if such incident took place, it was not to my knowledge, because I was not even affected by that.
You don't think your termination by the minister at the time was part of that policy?
I didn't get you.
Don't you think, without defending the actions of the government at that time or the minister at the time, your termination as assistant minister for administration at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, your termination at that time, don't you think it was part of that policy?
Well, I don't want to think so, because when my brother Boima Famula came to the ministry, I embraced him. It was at the very time that he told me that, look, we cannot work together. So if it was a policy, I don't know if the policy was drawn before he came to the ministry, but I think if it was a policy by the ministry, then of course he should have taken office first, and then the ministry make the policy before he would tell me, no, we can't work together. So I don't want to believe that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You said in time past, Mandingos were called dingoes. What does it mean by dingo?
Well, in those days, as I told you, Mandingos were mainly segregated against at various security checkpoints when commercial vehicles arrive there. This is an open issue. A lot of people know about it.
What is the meaning of dingo?
Dingo. Is there any dingo inside? They mean it's like a short way of saying any madingo inside.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You are very proud of your role during this period. You came out very clean and your contribution was very positive.
Definitely.
Was the contribution of self and maybe Blamo Nelson very positive?
We're very positive, yes.
Was the contribution of LIURD positive?
Very positive.
Was the contribution of Ulimo and Ajik Roman positive?
Very positive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have anything lastly to say to the TRC or the people of Liberia before you leave?
Yes, what I would want the people of Liberia to know is that most of us who participated in the struggle for change were honest people, were determined people. Our aims and objectives were intended to improve this country. We believed that by introducing the multi-party democracy in this country, that will make the government to perform better. So it was in view of that we were resolute to make sure that the government be pressurized to accept competitive democracy. So those who did not know why, and they labeled some of us as destructive and reckless people, please be informed that we are decent people, noble people, and we can do anything that is positive for the betterment of our people in Liberia. And we are also asking the TRC, as you have invited us here, to come and deliberate on these very pertinent issues, that those recommendations that we have given to you, that you do your best to make sure that those that can consider should be able to take them into account. Secondly, this is time for peace and reconciliation. I'm appealing to all peace lovers of Liberia to make sure that we should not have any more chaotic situation in this country. Besides, I'm also appealing to the TRC to make sure that we have an all-Liberian conference at which time we all can chat and discuss the way forward for a better, a peaceful, and reconciliatory Liberia. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Swaray. You may kindly leave with the thanks of the Commission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.